If you are a stroke survivor, you need help. You cannot do this alone, and you shouldn't feel like you have to. Welcome back to this channel. I'm Esther, and here we talk about stroke recovery, life after stroke, and living with invisible disabilities. I am not a stroke survivor. I am a caregiver to my husband who is. A year and a half ago, in 2023, he suffered a massive ischemic stroke. He was 52 years old. And now we're on this lifelong journey of stroke recovery, dealing with a number of invisible disabilities, including aphasia, the inability to communicate. A few weeks ago, my husband and I visited the South Surrey Stroke Recovery Group of BC. The director of the program found our YouTube channels, and she's been a great source of support and encouragement from the very beginning. And then she reached out to us, asking if we'd be willing to come and share our story with the group. Well, of course we said yes, because our story, as deeply painful and personal as it is, it's not meant to be private. And if our story can help or encourage one other family out there who's on a similar journey, then it just needs to be shared. So we went to this group not knowing what to expect. And my husband is only a year and a half into his recovery journey, which may seem like a long time, but in the world of stroke recovery, it's very short. We are right at the beginning. We're right at the starting line. Now, we were surrounded by people who had been on this journey for many years more than we have. There were people there who have been stroke survivors for 5, 10 years. And there were even people who had been stroke survivors for over 20 years. Now that really struck me because I used to think that support groups or getting support was a short-term thing, that it's something that you would get involved with in the beginning, but it's not something that you would need or want to be part of long-term. But no, the more I think about it, if you understand that stroke recovery is a lifelong journey, that you're in this for the long haul, then of course you're going to need support for the long run. Now, it amazed me that these stroke survivors, they continue to show up for one another and to show up for themselves year after year. Now, that whole vibe felt more like a family, like a group of old friends who had grown up together. They were there to really support one another and to encourage one another. And even though we were totally new to the group and so early on in our stroke recovery, they welcomed us with so much warmth and kindness. And it felt like we were all on the same team. So that's the beauty of stroke recovery groups. That's what happens when you're in this club. And trust me, nobody wants to be in this club. Nobody asked for it. But it is what it is. So what are we going to do about it? And this group of people in this club, they band together, they support one another, and they just walk each through the next phase of the journey. Now, when is a good time to join a support group? Well, that's really up to you. Of course, when my husband was in the hospital and in rehab, the thought of support groups was not even on our radar. We were just in survival mode. But as soon as we came home from the hospital, I felt so lost and overwhelmed, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know if what I was doing was the right thing for him. So 2 weeks after we got out of the hospital and we were at home, we joined our very first support group. And I don't think there's any right or wrong time to get started. The important thing is that you do start and you give it a shot. I know that my husband, he was still very, very tired, overwhelmed. He was really nervous about starting this group, so I went with him the first time. Now, the first group that my husband attended is called the Surrey Aphasia group. and it's provided by the Columbia Speech and Language Services in Vancouver. So the director of this program is a speech language pathologist, and she has so much experience working with adults with aphasia. And it's run by a group of volunteers, and a lot of the volunteers are actually students, university students who are studying to become speech language pathologists. And I love that because a lot of times when we think about speech therapy, we think about therapy for children who have a speech delay or who may be on the autism spectrum. But there is a great need for speech language therapists who can work with adults with aphasia. So I love the fact that these students have an opportunity to see where their education and training can take them. So my husband goes here every Monday for a couple of hours. It's in downtown Surrey. He's been attending this group for about a year and a half now, so right from the very beginning. And what they do is the first half they break up into small groups and they have some guided discussion about a specific topic, and then the last half of the session they'll play games, whether it's card games or other board games and such, so they end off on a positive note. They do a lot of other fun activities, such as, for Halloween, they'll dress up and they'll play special Halloween games. Or even for Christmas, they have a Christmas party, they have a potluck, and they'll invite the family members or friends as well. So we're just really, really, really thankful for this group and to be a part of this group. But looking back, it must not have been very easy for my husband to start going there. And I think it took him some time to warm up. I think it probably took him 3 or 4 weeks to warm up and to feel comfortable in that space and to feel comfortable going alone, on taking the Handy Dart bus by himself and coming home by himself. Another support group that my husband is a part of, it's a Korean aphasia group. I didn't even know that this even existed, but it is from the Aphasia Research Laboratory at Purdue University in Indiana. So of course, this program is on Zoom, and it's for Korean-speaking people with aphasia. Now, the members in this group are not only in North America, they are all over the world. So they get together and they have conversations in their native language and just support one another in that way. Another group that my husband was a part of last year, he's no longer a part of now, was a virtual stroke support group. Now, so here's the thing. I got him started on this group very early on. So this was at a time when he was still battling stroke fatigue. He had a lot of pain that he was dealing with in his shoulder. It affected his sleep and his quality of life. So it just wasn't the best timing for him. He attended that group, I think about 4 or 5 weeks, and then it just became too much for him. So we had to stop. So just because a support group or a program might not be the best fit for you at that time, keep an open mind, because it could be something that you could revisit maybe 6 or 12 months down the road, or even a few years down the road. But I think at the time it was too much for him, and even being in a large virtual group was just a lot for his senses to process. I think it was just a lot for him, and it became very stressful. But I think that this is something that we would like to revisit in the future. Now, even this support group that we visited in South Surrey, the reason why he doesn't go to that is because it doesn't fit with his current schedule. He has a very busy schedule, and he needs at least one day of full rest where he doesn't have to go anywhere. So right now his schedule is pretty solid. So we don't want to overwhelm him with another thing on his plate, but it's something that we'll consider in the future when his speech therapy, when that stops, or when his schedule frees up a little bit. So I started thinking about what are the benefits of support groups and why is it so important to get you to that next level of recovery. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of benefits to this, but I thought about the top 3 benefits and I wrote them down to share. The first one is, well, it's an important source of education. In these support groups, they provide a lot of information and tips and helpful insights, and they help you navigate the health system, the world of therapy, and just they help you understand what you're going through and what the brain, the trauma that your brain has suffered, and they help you understand and navigate this recovery process. Another one, which is really super important, is emotional support. Now, I can't imagine how lonely this stroke survivor journey would be for a person. And, I always say that I always joke with my husband and I say, you are the luckiest stroke survivor out there because you are surrounded by so much love and so much support. And yes, that is true. And we are so forever thankful for that. But there is a limit to what we can do for him. There is a limit to what we can provide. As much as I want to be able to provide everything for him, I do not understand what it's like to have experienced stroke. I do not fully understand the stroke fatigue and the cognitive deficits and what it's like to have aphasia. I can't imagine how devastating it would be if overnight I couldn't process my thoughts and bring it into words, if I couldn't communicate. So I don't fully understand what he is going through, but in a group of fellow stroke survivors, they understand. They get him, even though he doesn't express it in words. They have this common, mutual, shared relationship, this shared experience, this trauma, this grief, that is all the same. So they're able to understand each other at a very deep and intimate level. And the third one is community building. It's just being part of a community in a safe and a supportive community. I said it at the beginning of this video, and I'm going to say it again. If you are a stroke survivor, you need help. Please don't try to do this alone. If you're still in touch with a social worker at the hospital, then reach out to them for some phone numbers that you can call. If you are not in touch with a social worker, then go online and look for some local support groups in your area. In the description below, I'm going to add some resources that we have tapped into. And if you're already a part of a support group, that's fantastic. I hope it's going really well for you. Please leave a comment below and let me know the name of your support group. Whether you're in BC or Canada or abroad, just let us know so that we can share the information and we can get more information out there in the world for people who need it the most. Thank you so much for watching and all the best to you.